This article, also known as, After Transforming into a Mech, I Repeatedly Jump in the Confusion and Strive, and The Steel Evolution History of 35-plus Female Youth, is a slow-paced, healing pseudo-science fiction and inspirational article. When Lin Fan felt that she was worthless and could only live aimlessly, someone knocked on her door, saying that she was a great hero who could transform into a bumpy man. She, who didn't believe it at all, held a dispensable attitude and prepared to be sliced to contribute her remaining value. It turned out that she could really transform. Flying to the sky and escaping to the earth, impervious to knives and guns, and able to fight small monsters like Concave Man, the weak chicken that has opened up a new worldview, has regained confidence, prepared to show off their skills and become a useful person. Wait, why is transformation not under her control? Can only hold on for 10 seconds. Hurry up. Who will help her? Her goal is the Starry Sea. Keywords of the novel. Mech Star Wars without pop-ups. Download the complete set of Mech Star Wars TXT, and read the latest chapters of Mech Star Wars. Chapter 1. Lin Fan. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Lin Fan. Lin Fan is quite an ordinary person. She is not good-looking or ugly. Correct facial features, thick eyebrows and big eyes. On the road, there wouldn't be any more eyes lingering on her face, but calling her a beautiful woman wouldn't be too embarrassing. The height is decent, at 1.7 meters. When I was in my 20s, I was quite thin, and as I grew older, I maintained a good figure with a front and back curve for several years. A few years ago, I took medicine and directly gained weight into Michelin. Even if I stopped taking the medicine later, I didn't lose weight back. The side effects of the medication have not been eliminated, leaving behind a bunch of non-fatal but life-threatening illnesses. The deteriorating health cannot compare to the neighbor's grandmother in her 90s. He had a flushed face, full of energy, climbed up the stairs without breathing, and could even swish needles. Lin Fan can only win in terms of age. But you have to say she's ordinary. Lin Fan is quite well known in this area. When it comes to her, there are always exclamations mixed with, "Oh, it's her." Some small cities in the 3rd and 4th tier have been admitted to universities. There are many people who work in other places and do not return to their hometown. Most people get married shortly after graduation. Lin Fan went out for a few years like this, but instead of getting married at the age of marriage, he went back to go home. It's rare that he didn't get married when he was in his 30s. I'm afraid there's something wrong with it, isn't there? Really, don't you know? I heard she got that. Called depression, went to a mental hospital to see her. I heard she spent all the money she saved in the first few years, and it hasn't improved yet. I see, it's just idle. Those who can walk and move, don't look for a job, and don't come out of the house every day. Those who are good are all holding back. They look unhappy. What's unhappy about every day? It's just doing it. She's like this now, who else wants it? She's not stupid. Young girls don't want it. Find someone who is sick, still old, and don't even know if they can have a child. When I was a child, it seemed pretty good. I worked outside and came back quite glamorous. It seems like I even brought my partner home. The young man is tall, thin, and pretty good. Why didn't he get married? Who knows? Maybe they just know she has a problem. Don't bother. She's not stupid anymore. It seems that her parents don't care about her anymore. They don't live together. I don't want to take care of it either. An old girl in her 30s, who doesn't work well and is lazy enough not to get married, isn't her family being laughed at? She still needs to be raised by her family at this age. What's the use of raising someone so old? It's better to just die. Hey, you can't say that either. It's better to live than to die. Life also depends on how one lives. What are you talking about being dead or alive? Did the plane that fell off our place a few days ago? Oh my, I looked at my phone. The parachute pilot was flying, nothing happened. I've also heard that it's said to be quite close to us. I didn't see it that day, but it seems like I heard a buzzing sound. Where exactly is it? You don't know, just listen to me. I've seen experts say that guy is called a pilot and drives a fighter jet. An ant came out to popularize science. Fighter planes. Do we still fly fighter planes at this airport? Aren't fighter jets military planes? Oh my. We have an international airport here, and airplanes from all over the world can fly. What's wrong with fighter jets? Are you still listening to anyone? The science popularization lady became anxious. You say. The plane was flying, and it malfunctioned right above our heads. Do you think we are all residential buildings? If we fall down, we won't kill anyone. The science popularization lady vividly described the urgency at the time. Yes, that can't fall on us. So he has the ability. Ant patted her thigh. He made an emergency landing on the plane and had to fly to a deserted area before jumping. Just to the east, Kong Zhuang demolished the area and it was turned into a wasteland. He landed there. That's why nothing big happened. Isn't that just 1 or 2 kilometers away from us? So close. If it doesn't stop well, maybe it will hit us here. This guy is really good, he definitely needs to be praised. Is that guy okay? Some aunties were worried. It's okay, there's nothing wrong with parachuting. That's more than that. The plane only scratched a little oil, so it's still useful to go back and brush the paint, otherwise the losses will be huge. The science popularization lady waved her hand. Be good, are you so skilled? Did this save the country a lot of money? How many billions, right? Can't we praise this? We still need to pay a bonus. You just talk nonsense. The science popularization lady waved her hand. Those who want to make contributions are soldiers. Only after making contributions can they become leaders. What's the point of giving bonuses? There's a bright future ahead. Speaking of leadership, another ant interjected, I heard that the section chief of the Business Administration Bureau in Unit 5 has been promoted to Deputy Bureau. Is it really fake? Didn't you hear his wife say that? Can someone else's wife still tell you? Don't you understand how to make a fortune quietly? A phone rang in an office in Gauha City. One hand picked up the phone, but before they could speak, there was a knock on the door. Come in, the middle-aged man replied. Someone pushed the door in and saw the person inside answering the phone without saying a word. They silently closed the door and stood aside. I understand everything you said. We have already sent someone to investigate in the past 2 days, said the middle-aged man calmly, but it will take time. We still need to confirm the specific situation. Don't worry. The middle-aged man said, don't worry, I'll let you know as soon as there's a result. Okay, that's it for now. The young man who knocked on the door saw that the phone had been hung up. He stood up and walked to his desk, taking the initiative to say, Director. The middle-aged man, also known as the director, waved with a smile and said, Xiao Wu, sit down. Xiao Wu Shun sat on the chair opposite the director, placed the folder on the table, and pushed it over. This is the investigation result of the last plane crash, he said. The director opened the folder, read it carefully, and casually said, tell me your opinion. Xiao Wu said, the pilot said he saw someone catch the plane during the parachute descent. From this statement alone, it cannot be ruled out that he lied or misread in extreme emotions. Since the military has ruled out the possibility of him lying, there are only 2 options left. Misreading in facts. It is difficult to say whether he misread or not, so when I try to verify the truth of this matter from another perspective, it is surprisingly very likely. It's not reasonable to say that the aircraft rapidly descended from a malfunctioning altitude with only some heavy friction marks at the bottom of the nose. However, it's reasonable to say that when someone was holding the aircraft and lowering it, the nose landed first, causing friction. He took out a pen and pinched the middle horizontally from below, simulating the state when the airplane was lowered. Indeed, the tip of the pen touched the tabletop first. The director looked at his demonstration and nodded slightly. What you're saying is a hypothesis and cannot be judged by whether it's reasonable or not. After all, it's not reasonable for someone to support the plane itself. Xiao Wu smiled and said, "Director, are we still arguing about whether it's reasonable or not here? Why don't you care? It's important to follow logic everywhere." The director nodded at the folder and gave Xiao Wu a gentle glare. "Yes, of course we have to talk about it." Xiao Wu chuckled and said seriously, "The land where the plane landed is a demolition area, located in the suburbs. After several years of demolition, there has been no construction progress, and except for the construction waste brought from other places, it is full of weeds, which can be said to be an uninhabited area. There's not even a light at night, let alone surveillance cameras. The nearest surveillance camera is crossing a street, about 100 meters away. But it's a civilian surveillance camera with limited range and cannot capture that piece of land. It would be great if it were equipped with a sky eye. If there's surveillance, what do you think we have to do?" the director said irritably. "Isn't it because there's no surveillance, no evidence, that the military called me? Look, it's only been 2 days, and I just called to urge you. I don't know what's urgent. Perhaps you're trying to grab someone." Xiao Wu speculated. "Snatching people." The director snorted coldly. "Even if it's confirmed, people don't belong to them." He nodded at the finished document and asked, "Is only one person found?" "Yes, according to the pilot's parachute position and the final landing point of the plane, the radiation covers an area of 5 kilometers, and we have adjusted the video footage of various cameras during the incident," Xiao Wu replied. "Especially the area where the plane can be seen and the area behind the tail, we have focused on investigating." "Where's the problem with her?" The director saw a few words written on the document. "Is the clothes damaged?" What kind of problem is this? Assuming it's really this person who can fly, carry a plane, what's the point of wearing torn clothes? Is it difficult to transform and break through like the Green Giant? Time is too coincidental. You see, her residential area happens to be over 1,000 meters away from the landing point of the plane. Before the crash, she appeared in the surveillance footage of the area, and there was no visible damage to her clothes at that time. Xiao Wu stood up and pointed to one of the photos. The person in the photo is wearing a loose black T-shirt, brown shorts, barefoot in slippers, holding a red bag in their hand, and it's hard to see what's inside. The clothes may not look new, but they are indeed not torn. She walked through the courtyard garden and entered the surveillance blind spot. Look at this time. In another minute, the plane confirmed a malfunction, followed by the pilot confirming a parachute, and then the plane taxied and kept falling. Xiao Wu flipped through the specific data of the plane on the back page. According to our calculations, when the plane passed by her community, it was already significantly lower than normal altitude, accompanied by a huge roar and black smoke. Coincidentally, this point was during lunch break, and coupled with the hot weather, almost everyone in the community was taking a nap at home, so not many people saw it. According to the descent trajectory, the plane should drop to the 6th floor near the east gate of the community, then collide with the house, or taxi on the roof, and finally stop on the road outside the community. Although the road is only 4 lanes, it is also a main road with a lot of traffic flow. Once an accident occurs, the casualties are incalculable. Xiao Wu breathed a sigh of relief and said, "Fortunately, someone intervened." That's also one of the important reasons why we judged the pilot's statement to be true. The plane's trajectory is incorrect. What else? The director asked. The camera cannot capture the plane, but it can capture the shadow it casts on the ground, providing us with a relatively accurate reference time. The plane passes through her neighborhood and then reaches the last camera before landing, which is about 10 seconds. The pilot's parachute jump time is about 3.5 minutes until the plane lands. During this period, none of the cameras in the community captured her, and she didn't appear in the cameras again until it was dark, when the back of her clothes was torn. Xiao Wu pointed to another photo. Although there is a monitoring blind spot in the community, only the atrium is located, and the periphery is still closed. Therefore, as long as you walk normally, you will soon enter other monitoring areas. The temperature on that day was 32 degrees, which was still quite hot. During the hottest period of the day, she neither left the community nor wandered around, only staying in a dead end for over 7 hours, which is obviously not normal. The director looked at the row of small holes from top to top at the back of the clothes, with tattered and dotted skin, and asked, could it be something that has been harmed? Considering this situation, Xiao Wu replied, we retrieved local police records and found no similar police situation. Moreover, everyone else's movements were monitored and followed, and no one approached her area. I have also considered whether I woke up after fainting from heatstroke. Although I can't see my face clearly in the surveillance footage, my gait doesn't seem much different from when I went out, unlike my weak state. I have temporarily ruled out this possibility. The director nodded secretly. My summary of her judgment is that she is powerful and can fly, there should be no one to guide her, and she may be in an uncontrollable state of ability. Xiao Wu concluded and sighed helplessly. The most important thing is that during our investigation, only she disappeared from the surveillance footage during the incident, showing obvious abnormalities. So whether it is her or not, we need to confirm first. Okay, the director closed the document, you go confirm. Newcomer's new book, I hope everyone likes it. Hehe, for collection, for recommendation, for monthly pass. Asterisk caret caret asterisk, end of this chapter. Chapter 2. Strange People. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Strange People. Lin Fan knows that many people are talking about her, but she doesn't mind either. How can a person who doesn't even care about their own life and death care about the gossip of strangers? If you truly suffer from depression and the symptoms are severe, it is not easy to get rid of it. She stayed in the hospital for 3 months, and the doctor sent her home in order to provide her with a better recovery environment. In the following year, Lin Fan's body gradually returned to normal. At least it looks normal. But her heart is still a ruin. In her eyes, the world was a gloomy and devoid of any desire to live. It seems that any illness, after the wear and tear of time, will go from being cautious to being careless. Lin's mother felt that Lin Fan was a normal person again, and began to nag and argue with Lin's father. Lin Fan's condition has started to recur again. The doctor suggests that if you can't understand, it's better to separate. So, in order to create a better environment, Lin's father took Lin's mother to the high market where they had been doing business for years. They also bought a house there, which can be reached by car in an hour. Lin Fan, who was alone, felt at ease and entered a long recovery period. In the eyes of others, it means being idle. She overcame the pain caused by drug side effects while slowly exploring hope in life. However, the treatment of mental illnesses and the cost of medication are very high. After the previous savings were depleted, the parents continued to support Lin Fan with their retirement pension. Life started to be tight, and Lin Fan didn't want to fill that bottomless hole anymore. She stopped treatment. In the time when there was no hope, Lin Fan felt his incompetence countless times, feeling the dullness and pain of his body. She wanted to get better soon and earn money to become independent, but reality went against her plan, with her health deteriorating and her mental state deteriorating. Not to mention finding a job, sometimes even maintaining a normal life is barely possible. As we age and our health deteriorates, our recovery is still uncertain. Lin Fan struggled while comforting himself, unable to get help or escape from the predicament. She lives in an old community with good greenery. When it was first developed, a micro-park was also built, with a small earthen slope, a shaded path, and a small pond outside the park entrance. The window in Lin Fan's room provides a perfect view of this landscape. Spring flowers and autumn moon, summer insects and ice and snow, changing seasons, full of vitality. This small scenery can effectively alleviate her anxiety and help her relax. But in the first 2 years, parking spaces were tight, and the bushes and grass downstairs were all pulled out as parking spaces. The pond has also been filled, parking spaces have been designated, and fitness facilities have been built. Fortunately, there was enough space, and the small forest was finally saved. One day when Lin Fan went out, he saw a stray cat, all dirty and searching for food in the trash can. She looked for a while, but the cat didn't find anything. Instead, she noticed her gaze and ran away vigilantly. Perhaps it was the gentle old cat in my grandmother's memory, or perhaps it was the feeling of its difficult survival that made Lin Fan follow and enter the small forest. The small forest is really small. Standing at the entrance, you can see the end at a glance, which is about 50 meters square. There was a time when no one cleaned it, and there was garbage everywhere, dirty and smelly. No one came in. Later on, we arranged for someone to clean, and perhaps everyone's quality improved a bit, so we finally managed to get in. But there are also many mosquitoes inside, and those who take care of children are unwilling to enter. Adults find it boring and instead become a paradise for small animals. Lin Fan walked in and carefully searched, only to see several hidden sheds hidden among the trees on the top of the soil slope, with swaying tails faintly visible. Meow. She crouched down to learn how to meow, trying to lure the cat out. It's useless, they're so cautious. They're not like little dogs, they come at a whim. A kind female voice came from behind. Lin Fan stood up and turned around, seeing a grandmother with gray hair walking over with a gentle smile. She took a few steps back without leaving a trace. Grandma put down the bag on her hand and took out a bag of dark things and a bottle of water from inside. She tugged at the edge of the tree root and took out 2 disposable lunch boxes. She gently rebuked the direction of the cat's nest, saying, "I love to knock over the rice bowl every day, I have to come over every day. If I don't come one day, it depends on what you eat." The lunchbox was a bit dirty, so she slowly rinsed it clean with water and didn't forget to talk to Lin Fan. "Meow meow, you can't get over here. It's better to get familiar with it. They think you're a stranger and they'll have to wait until you leave before they come out to eat. Pour in clean water, then open the plastic bag and pour the contents into another lunchbox." Brown and round, Lin Fan guessed it might be cat food. Grandma tidied up and greeted Lin Fan, "Let's go first. They dare not come out while you are here." Lin Fan glanced at the cat leaping out of the tree and followed along. "I just can't bear to see these little things go hungry. If they don't come for a day, I'm afraid they'll go hungry, and I'm very worried," Grandma said to herself as she walked ahead. As she approached the exit, she squatted down again and took out a bottle of water and food from her handbag. She groped through the bushes but couldn't find anything. Which heartless person threw it at me again? She was a bit angry and took out 2 disposable lunch boxes from her handbag, starting to pour food and water. "This is prepared for the little vagrants from outside, but most of it is for Meow Meow to eat." She smiled and poured out the food. "It's been a long time since there were any new little vagrants. It's really nice." After finishing her tasks, Grandma carefully packed the empty bottles and bags and casually asked, "Do you like cats?" Lin Fan was stunned for a moment, liking. It seemed impossible to talk about it. "I just love cats and dogs. When I was young, I couldn't keep them either." Grandma didn't seem to want to wait for her answer and continued with a smile, "As I get older, I can't bear to see these cats and dogs without a home, hungry and cold. Feed them," but the dog got along with me and followed me back home. The cats were not so close, so they stayed in the forest all along. I made a nest for them, put on some old clothes, and came to see them every day, not afraid of them getting wet or cold. At this age, I can be considered a person who has both cats and dogs." "You are a good person," Lin Fan exclaimed heartily as he looked at the happy smile on the old man's face. "Where is it?" The old man waved his hands and laughed heartily. Even if I'm old, I can't do anything else. Helping these little animals still makes me look like a useful old lady. This sentence gave Lin Fan a direction. Perhaps she can also increase some weak life value by feeding stray animals and helping these even weaker and helpless groups. At least she can also do something useful. After returning, I immediately bought a bag of cat food on the website. It wasn't good, but it was full. I also took a large bowl of coarse porcelain from home and put water and food in it, and fed it every 3 to 5 days. Grandma Pei, who feeds cats, was extremely happy after encountering her a few times and no longer worried about occasionally starving them when she didn't have time. But Lin Fan didn't like to interact with people, so he later chose to go after noon when they had lunch and had lunch break. Over time, the cat became familiar with her and dared to wander around the rice bowl while she was feeding. Life seems to have undergone some changes, with some differences, so it can be considered a new step. At noon that day, Lin Fan went to feed the cat again. In the small forest, meowing cats stretch out lazily to urge her to eat when they see her coming. Lin Fan installed them and was crouching to watch the little ones burying their heads in hardship when he heard voices coming from behind. Ms. Lin. Lin Fan didn't think it was called her. In fourth-tier small cities, speaking Mandarin and shouting people are nothing more than express delivery and takeout. She hasn't bought any express delivery these days, so there won't be any couriers looking for her, and she never orders takeout. It wasn't until Meow Meow, who was eating, suddenly entered the forest and heard footsteps from behind. In a very close position, he heard a Ms. Lin sound, and Lin Fan finally confirmed that he might be calling her. She stood up and slowly turned around, seeing a smiling young man standing 3 meters ahead. He is wearing a pair of black framed glasses, and his appearance may not be very handsome, but his smile is very approachable and infectious. He has raised his appearance from 6 points to 8 points, and no one can argue that he is handsome. On a hot day at noon, he was wearing a black suit with a deep red tie tightly fastened to the collar of his white shirt, as if he couldn't feel the heat. Intermediary. Lin Fan thought to himself. How did the agent know her? Did you mistake the person? Ms. Lin Fan, the young man confirmed that he had not mistaken the person and took a few steps forward, extending his right hand to shake her hand. Hello, my name is John Woo. John Woo originally thought that Lin Fan should be a little more decadent or gloomy. After all, in his investigation, Lin Fan had been suffering from severe depression for several years. Living alone and not liking to get along with others. Various entries formed a bad image in his mind, but the real Lin Fan was not like that. She stood there quietly without showing any negative emotions. His half-drooping eyelids appeared somewhat weak, and his eyes remained calm. Upon closer inspection, he could see that his eyes were full of fatigue. Apart from that, he could hardly see any difference between Lin Fan and a normal person. Lin Fan glanced at his outstretched hand and slowly took 2 steps back. Wu Yusen immediately withdrew his hand and said with a smile, Ms. Lin, don't be nervous. I am a staff member of a state agency, and this is my work permit. Speaking, he took out a black leather notebook from the inside pocket of his suit and opened it, showing it to Lin Fan. Lin Fan glanced at it. The person in the photo is indeed this person. My name is John Woo. Did she pay attention just now? If she remembers the name correctly, it should be some famous director, right? Position. Senior Special Operations Specialist. Looking at the official seal again. National Special Function Office. Except for the photos, there is no problem. Everywhere exudes the aura of a scammer. John Woo looked at Lin Fan's silence, took back his work permit, and explained with a smile, let's just say this name. Every time I introduce myself, I have to say a few more words. When I was born, the movie, Hero's Nature, was particularly popular, and my parents loved it. I originally wanted to take the name of the protagonist, but my father's surname is Wu, so changing it to the protagonist's name always feels awkward. Coincidentally, the director's surname is also Wu, and they thought that being able to make such a movie would definitely be a talented person. They hoped that I would also become a talented person in the future, so they directly called the director's name. Lin Fan must have watched The True Story of Heroes, but he doesn't quite remember the plot. Is it directed by John Woo? She only found out now. Does this add up to a knowledge point? Ms. Lin, let me introduce to you again. The National Special Function Agency is a legitimate state agency, formerly known as the 888 Institute for Human-Specific Function Research, established in the early days of the founding of the People's Republic of China. Wu Yusen saw that Lin Fan did not respond and continued, in fact, the people also gave us a nickname called Dragon Group, which you may have heard of. I have never heard of 888 or something, but the Dragon team has heard of it a few times. But does this organization really exist? Isn't it fabricated in the novel? Is there something wrong with this person? Lin Fan looked at the smiling John Woo and suspected that he might have some kind of mental illness. Wu Yusen remained silent when he saw Lin Fan, and continued to work hard to release his affinity. He smiled and said, "We have a preliminary suspicion that you, Ms. Lin Fan, have special abilities." End of this chapter. Chapter 3. The Madman Who Blocks the Way. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. The Madman Who Blocks the Way. Damn it. Can she still get to where she is today if she has special abilities? Lin Fan silently complained. Obviously, John Woo's situation is worth sympathizing with, and at the same time, she has some shared sadness. It's not uncommon for strangers to know her name when considering her popularity in the community. Forget it, let's go. This person looks very talented. Unfortunately, she silently sighed, packed her things, and walked around John Woo towards the outside. Wu Yusen was stunned as he saw Lin Fan getting closer and farther away. Usually, when he says the previous words, whether the listener believes it or not, there will always be some feedback. Why not show surprise and ask east and west? Don't think there's something wrong with him, give him a big scolding. It was the first time I saw someone like Lin Fan who remained silent and didn't say anything. He quickly took 2 steps to catch up with Lin Fan and cut her off. Lin Fan heard footsteps coming from behind and quickly stepped aside to avoid encountering them. Unexpectedly, John Woo stopped in the middle of the road. If she wants to leave, she has to wait for John Woo to step aside, or she can cross the grass and pass through the forest. The tree species in the forest are a bit dense. If you insist on walking, you can still drill by pulling on both sides. The space is definitely not large, and it will be pulled by the branches. Even if you can go out, it is probably quite embarrassing. She silently looked at the young man in front of her, wondering if she needed to drill. John Woo doesn't know if all depression patients are so calm, or if it's just Lin Fan. He didn't have much time to think and spoke more quickly than before. "Sorry, Ms. Lin, it may have caused you some trouble. Please give me some more time, at least let me explain the whole story clearly." 3 minutes. After 3 minutes, I promise to make way and not stop you. How can Lin Fan choose? Watching the safe distance between the two and John Woo's current state of peace, she continued to remain silent. Although she didn't want to hear what a suspected mentally ill patient said, she didn't want to provoke him. I hope he can keep his word in 3 minutes. If it doesn't work. Lin Fan quietly glanced at the retreat. John Woo did not expect that Lin Fan, who remained silent, had already labeled him as insane. Seeing that Lin Fan had not moved, he breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. Being able to communicate is still good. I don't know if you have heard of the recently discussed plane crash. The pilot parachuted and the plane was fine. It happened around here. John Woo believes that Lin Fan should know. After all, the hot search has been trending for so long, and the old men and women are all discussing it. But seeing Lin Fan motionless like a mountain, I was uncertain again. I took out my phone and found the video to show Lin Fan. The video was captured by someone sitting in the co-pilot seat, and one can clearly see a parachuting person in mid-air. A distance away is a small plane dragging black smoke, and there is also a loud voice in the video, constantly shouting that the plane has fallen. The building below looks familiar to Lin Fan. It's a nearby shopping mall, but she really doesn't know about this news. She doesn't usually use her phone much, and she doesn't even have a small video app installed. At the end of the video, Lin Fan looked up and waited for John Woo to speak. The plane in this video malfunctioned and lost control, and the pilot couldn't repair it. Helplessly, they had to parachute. The plane eventually made a safe emergency landing in an uninhabited area, and the accident did not result in any casualties. John Woo explained seriously, the outside world said that the pilot controlled the plane to an area where it wouldn't harm anyone before jumping, but in fact, that's not the case. Due to a malfunction, the pilot was unable to fully control the plane and had to adjust the nose to a direction with relatively fewer people to reduce casualties. After parachuting, he thought that a plane crash would cause a serious accident and kept staring at the plane, but did not expect to see someone catch the plane. See, can this nonsense be spoken by a normal person? Lin Fan continued to complain in silence with a cold face. Do you not believe it? John Woo nodded knowingly. Yes, normal people would not believe it at first glance. The military also does not believe it. They used all means to rule out the possibility of the pilot lying and confirmed that he did not have any mental problems. In addition, the plane did indeed deviate from its original landing point and the shell was almost intact. Faced with such a strange result, their ability was limited and they could not continue to investigate further. Therefore, this bizarre case was transferred to our Special Affairs Office. After our investigation and analysis, we believe that Ms. Lin is very likely the person who carried the plane and placed it in an unmanned area. If you are aware of this, I would like to invite you to work with us on behalf of the Special Affairs Agency. Our salary and benefits are very generous, and we believe we can definitely meet your needs. If you don't know the specific situation, we hope you can cooperate and go to our special agency to test the relevant projects. Finally, if it is indeed our mistake and you don't have special abilities, there will be generous compensation to compensate for all your losses. Can she pick up the plane from the sky? The coffin board of the ancestors of the Lao Lin family cannot be covered anymore. Lin Fan didn't want to waste any more time with him and said, "It's 3 minutes." John Woo was taken aback again, saying that 3 minutes was just an excuse. I thought that even if Lin Fan felt the situation was outrageous after he finished speaking these words, he would always ask a few more questions with generous monetary compensation so that he could get along with her. Once installed, the following deployment will be smoother. I didn't expect Lin Fan to be completely unmoved. He didn't expect that Lin Fan wouldn't believe a word from him. More importantly, Lin Fan has no primitive desire for money. She has no hope for life now, nor any desire at all. This kind of lifestyle is actually very scary. No matter how many times I don't want to continue, it's all because of my parents enduring it. I want to work and earn money, but I also don't want to spend my parents' retirement pension to burden them anymore. It's not a desire for money itself. So it's impossible to talk to him no matter what. Looking at Lin Fan's calm expression, Wu Yusen furrowed his brows slightly and finally made way for the passage. Lin Fan quickly passed through and even quickened his pace, as he was about to leave the forest. Just let her go like this. That's not possible. John Woo couldn't think of any other way in a short time, so he had to resort to the simplest and most brutal approach. Lin Fan, female, born on November 11, 1987, at the People's Hospital of Yangqing Xian Town. John Woo watched as Lin Fan's back stopped at the exit, useful. At the age of 4, he attended kindergarten in Huayuan Kindergarten. At the age of 8, he entered Huayuan Elementary School. At the age of 13, he attended junior high school in No. 1 Middle School. At the age of 16, he was 1 point behind in the middle school entrance exam and paid 20,000 yuan to enter experimental high school. He also took a 1-year sick leave in the second semester of high school. At the age of 19, he was admitted to the Art and Design College of Jiangxi University of Arts and applied for undergraduate studies, successfully obtaining a bachelor's degree and a bachelor's degree in art and design from Wuhan University of Science and Technology. Wu Yusen saw Lin Fan turn around and take a few steps towards him. Lin Fan didn't expect John Wu to say these things. Such a detailed life story is not something that the neighbors in the community can explain clearly. She looked at John Wu with a heavy gaze and asked, "How do you know?" John Wu smiled and said, "Didn't I say that? I'm a staff member of a state agency. Don't you believe me, do you?" "Yes, I don't believe it," Lin Fan replied decisively. She just had an emotional problem, maybe her head was a bit stiff, but she wasn't foolish. What kind of person would believe his outrageous and bizarre words? Heaven and earth have a conscience, every word I say is true. John Wu reluctantly shrugged. Lin Fan originally thought that John Wu was a lunatic, after all, his words were very outrageous. But listening to him just being able to reveal her information, it doesn't feel like that's the case. She knows that in today's society, personal privacy is completely disclosed, an ID number, telephone number and home address are easily available. She has also filled out similar information in her resume or other account application areas before. If someone wants to get these, it doesn't seem that difficult. But why? Scam money. She is already poor and relies on her parents to support her. Cheating. Can you pull it down? She is 35 years old and full of fat. Setting aside the issue of crime, if John Wu deceives her, it seems like she has taken a big advantage. Don't tell her love at first sight, it's just a trick for children. Even if not, how blind can one fall in love with her at first sight? To deceive pyramid schemes. With her lost labor force and a dull and lifeless appearance every day, who couldn't help but deceive her into working? In a few days, she should be collected. This person investigated her so thoroughly that they shouldn't not know her current situation. What do you want? I didn't expect it, so I asked directly. What I just said, please join us, or come back with me to assist in the investigation and conduct some tests. John Wu was quite happy to see Lin Fan speak up for the second time. Isn't that a coincidence? Take me back. Where? Our headquarters, the specific location cannot be disclosed at this time. The basic confidentiality rules must still be followed. Are you the only one? Only the two of us? Lin Fan asked again. Yes. I am fully responsible for this case, and I am here to approach you. If you agree, I will naturally drive you to headquarters. My driving skills are very good, so you don't have to worry about safety issues at all. Lin Fan pondered. If I agree and get on the bus with you, it's up to you the final say where to go. It's not the final say, it's my decision to go to the headquarters at the beginning. John Wu felt that Lin Fan had misunderstood. Of course Lin Fan misunderstood. After ruling out all possibilities, the only profitable thing left was her body. Is it human trafficking? It shouldn't be. Who would use such a handsome guy as bait? Selling to a remote mountain village as a wife for only a few thousand yuan is not in line with cost theory. But not necessarily. In this world, innocent girls have no resistance to such handsome guys and can be easily fooled away just by looking at their faces. Not right. I am already 35 years old and have sufficient social experience, making it difficult to abduct. And they should know that their bodies are not healthy and cannot sell for a good price. Well. Then there's only one possibility left. Do we need to do some more research? Yes, there are some basic physical tests, such as blood tests and CT scans, as well as some special tests that use special instruments to test your special abilities. In that case, Lin Fan thought for a moment. After completing the examination, he found that the matching was successful. He took me to a black hospital where he could make a lot of money by having his kidneys cut and selling blood. Although the body is not healthy, there are no major problems with all organs in the body. I heard that the black market is in short supply and expensive. She feels that life is unattainable, but she also doesn't want such a way of death. John Woo thought the harmonious atmosphere of the conversation was instantly shattered, and he smiled bitterly. You still don't believe me? Yes. Didn't I show you the identification? He was really helpless. Who knows the truth? Lin Fan replied. How can you trust me? John Woo admitted. It's not difficult either. Lin Fan's relaxed tone aroused Wu Yusin's curiosity. She reached into her pocket, took out her phone, clicked a few times, placed it in her ear, and waited for a few seconds before saying, "Hello, is it 110?" End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Confidential information from the police station. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Confidential information from the police station. John Woo choked and burst into laughter. Okay, this way she can believe it. Speaking of which, it's good for Lin Fan to have such caution. If she can easily believe it with just a few words from him, even if she really has the ability to ride a plane, she won't be able to go far in the future. After Lin Fan finished speaking on the phone, he saw the smiling face of John Woo. Whether it's a lunatic or a scammer, let the police investigate. From the moment he reported her detailed information, the police officer had to report it. Neither of them moved, looking at each other quietly at a distance. This stalemate was not broken until 20 minutes later when the police car arrived. Who called the police? 2 police officers walked over and asked. Me, Lin Fan said. What's going on? The police opened the camera on their shoulder, flipped out the folder, and prepared to take notes. Lin Fan opened his mouth and didn't know how to speak for a moment. How should I tell the police about those messy things? She looked at John Woo. John Woo was probably aware of Lin Fan's difficulties and came forward to explain. Hello comrade, I am a special agent from the Special Affairs Office. There is a case that I hope she can assist in investigating, but some misunderstandings have arisen. Where? The police didn't hear clearly. Where did you say you were? Special Affairs Office, Special Function Office, specialized in handling non-scientific events. John Woo took out his work permit. The 2 police officers leaned up and looked for a while, feeling somewhat speechless. A police officer raised an eyebrow at another and asked, have you ever heard of it? The other party shook their head to indicate that there was no response. This is awkward. The questioning police officer looked at Lin Fan with an expressionless face and suddenly understood her silence just now. He scratched his forehead with his pen in hand and looked at John Woo, pondering. Comrade, we haven't heard of your unit before. The special agency is a confidential unit that most people have never heard of. John Woo was not afraid at all. Can you show me your work permit? Said Police Officer B. John Woo readily handed it over. Police Officer B carefully studied the work permit after obtaining it. It's very similar to a police officer's certificate, with a stamped circular badge on the cover. He hasn't seen any specific pattern before. After opening it, one side is a colored ID photo with a string of numbers pressed on the bottom, on the other side, the name, position, job number, and the number on the photo match, and there is also a red official seal printed. Take it out and take a closer look. The paper is thick and sturdy, with a faint golden appearance, and the production process is very exquisite. The position of the red seal is stacked with a steel seal, printed clearly, and it is not very expensive to hold in your hand. Behind the photo is a hard card similar to an ID card. On one side is a photo, with the same name, position, and job number as on the paper, and on the other side is the badge pattern on the cover. Just looking at the production process of this work permit, it doesn't look very fake. But the unit and position are really hard to describe. Anyway, he can't distinguish. He handed it to Police Officer A. but couldn't distinguish it, so he had to return it to John Woo. If we can't figure it out, let's change the target first. Police then asked Lin Fan, what does the reporter have to say? This person suddenly appeared and said a lot of strange things to me, as well as revealing many of my personal information from birth and expressing his desire to take me away. I have reason to suspect that he will pose a threat to my personal safety and request that the police investigate this person's identity to protect my safety. John Woo heard Lin Fan say so much for the first time. It was clear and concise. So isn't she not talkative, she just doesn't want to say more to him? Of course not, Lin Fan just doesn't like to talk. Is what the reporter said true? Police officer A asked back. It's basically true, John Woo rubbed his chin. But I won't pose a security threat to her, I just asked her to assist in the investigation. You report your name and ID number. Policeman A took out the police pass to check people. Both of them reported separately. The police investigation revealed no issues. How do you contact your work unit? The reporter asked to verify his identity. Ken didn't point out the location of his registered residence registration. Police A knew that it was to verify the information on the work card. As a special security unit, the Special Affairs Office cannot be directly contacted from outside, said John Woo. Can't you contact me? I can, but when I call and you answer, will you believe me? That's right, who knows where he went, they believe him when he says they believe him, and the police are too easy to deceive. Then send a letter. The following sentence didn't go on. It reminded me that sending a letter is also a principle, and it's impossible to judge the other party's information. Police B quietly stabbed Police A in the back. Why is it so unreliable to listen to him? Police A is also distressed. How can we continue to ask, but we can't directly ask if someone has any mental health problems, right? It's too impolite, you might get complained about. And if there's any problem, people will say there's no problem, and even asking is useless. TSK. We cannot give up halfway. If his work permit is fake, then the reporter is indeed facing a security threat. Keep asking. How can we verify that you are an employee there? Although the Special Affairs Office is a classified unit, it belongs to the same system as the police agency and is a sister unit. There is a place in the police system specifically for querying classified matters, where my job information can be found. Really? Police A suspected, is there this part? He has been a police officer for 10 years, why haven't he heard of it? Yes, there is a place for encrypted queries that you may not normally use and have never noticed. Is the police hotline not working? Police officer B took out the police hotline to check. For the sake of portability, some functions of the police station have been castrated, and encryption queries, which are not commonly used classifications, are naturally impossible to have, explained John Woo. That means we need to go back to the police station. John Woo agreed to go, he wanted to prove his identity. Lin Fan also agreed to go, she wanted to determine if this person would pose a threat to herself. The two police officers were also a bit curious whether the special agency really existed. So the four of them got into the police car together. In order to prevent accidents, young police officer B drove, Lin Fan sat in the passenger seat, and police officer A and John Woo, who had been in the police for many years, sat in the back row, quietly guarding against the possibility of him being mentally ill and potentially causing harm. The police car honked its horn all the way and made its way to the police station. Take the two of them to the mediation room and leave police officer B to watch. Police officer A quickly goes up and reports to the leader. What the hell? A classified unit. The police station chief didn't expect such a thing to happen. To achieve his position, of course, he knows that there are security units, but the specific units he doesn't usually have access to are also blind. Moreover, it is usually not a good thing for security units to come down to handle matters. A secret agent appeared in his jurisdiction, and all his legs were trembling. Yeah, that's to say, the security unit. We can't tell if that work permit is real or not. Listening to him speak logically, it doesn't seem like there's a problem, said Police Officer Jia with a mournful expression. But we haven't encountered a seemingly normal mental illness before. It's just a matter of being classified. If it's all nonsense and it turns out he's a mental illness, wouldn't it be embarrassing for us police officers to be fooled by a mental illness? Which specific unit? The director asked. Special function law firms are said to specialize in solving non-scientific events. The term, what is a non-scientific event, touches upon the blind spot of one's strengths. Unscientific. Probably some superstitious activities. Police Officer A thought of some superstitious cases he had cracked before and hesitated to speculate, catching ghosts. Grab your head. The director was speechless, talking nonsense. What kind of nonsense is it? What feudal superstition does the police officers wear on their bodies? He knows the informant's privacy and still wants to take them away. That's what I said. How could a woman agree to that? No, she's calling the police. So what are you reporting to me about? Isn't it the first time I've encountered this kind of thing? I thought you should be well informed and know about these security units, Director. Besides, I can't figure out who that person is, and I also want you to help me check and see if he's telling the truth or if he's mentally ill. Police Officer A knew that the director had been a police officer for decades, and his eyes were very poisonous. He even said that he could find his identity from the encrypted query in the police system, so he probably had to personally take action. That also requires your permission, right? Let's go, I'll also see what a secret agent is. The director squinted his eyes and thought for a moment, deciding that it would be more reassuring to meet in person. Lin Fan and Wu Yusen sat silently on either side of the long table, while Police Officer B stood silently at the door, staring at the two without knowing what to say. Time passed in a strange silence until the door was opened. Police Officer A walked in and introduced to the two, "This is the director of our police station. He wants to learn some information from you." The two stood up to welcome. Lin Fan nodded to the director, and Wu Yusen got closer. He reached out to grab it and said, "Hello Director, my name is Wu Yusen." The director smiled and shook his hand twice. "Hello, hello, sit down quickly." Walking to the top of the long table, Police Officer Jia helped the director support a chair. As he sat down, he handed him a color and asked how he felt. The director patted the hand of the police officer holding the armrest, seeming to signal him to let go, but in reality, he calmed down a bit. Several people took their seats one by one, and the director spoke up and asked, "I heard there is a comrade from a confidential unit. Who is that?" "Director, it's me." John Woo took out his work permit and handed it to the director. The director took it over and carefully examined it, but he had not seen it before and could not distinguish it. He chuckled and said, "Comrade Xiao Wu, please forgive the police officers in our grassroots units. They do have very little contact with confidential units, and it is difficult to distinguish the specific situation. What kind of unit is this special function law firm? Can you tell me?" "Strictly speaking, it cannot be said." John Woo smiled politely, but in this situation, it is probably difficult to explain some basic information. Moreover, we are also considered brother units. I believe that with the character and professional ethics of the director and the two police officers, we can also strictly abide by propriety and help our Special Affairs Office maintain confidentiality. That's for sure. People's police are always trustworthy. The director took the lead in guaranteeing. When it comes to the name Special Function Office, many people may not be familiar with it, but some may have heard of its predecessor .888 Bureau. The director I represent is the director from the Police Honors section. I even changed my lines according to his accent. Like strengths, asterisk caret caret asterisk, end of this chapter. Chapter 5. Tells a good story. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 tells a good story. 888 Bureau. I know. The director patted his hand. Has it changed its name to Special Affairs Office now? Yes, it was changed 30 years ago. Director, what is 888 Bureau? Police Officer B asked. Comrade Xiao Wu, can we say this? The director asked cautiously. This is not a secret, John Wu smiled. Why don't I explain it? Okay. The director nodded. Of course, he had heard of the name 888, but the specific situation was also unclear. Police Officer A sat behind the director, watching as he was very engaged in his conversation, unable to distinguish whether he truly believed it or pretended to use glitch AS. I can't handle so much, I'll pull out my ears and listen secretly. When it comes to 888 rounds, older people may have an impression, while most young people are unaware. John Woo talked about the past and present of the 888 Bureau, and his voice was full of emotion. His tongue was full of lotus flowers, and the three police officers gradually became fascinated by it. 888 Bureau has officially been renamed as the Special Function Office, with a more low-key and secretive approach, and a higher level of confidentiality. Over time, no one has ever heard of it, so it has gradually faded away. And this is exactly what our special agency wants. John Woo talked for 40 to 50 minutes, and Lin Fan could summarize it in 3 sentences. At the beginning of its establishment, the 888 Bureau was aimed at researching aerospace technology and cultivating and transporting astronauts. Later, for some unknown reason, the research direction shifted and focused on human science research, with considerable achievements. So the Superior split and reorganized the 888 Bureau, renaming it as the Special Affairs Bureau, specifically recruiting supernatural individuals, studying supernatural phenomena, and solving non-scientific events. Police Officer A saw that Police Officer B was still immersed in the story with great interest, and had to admit that this person's storytelling ability was too good. Can people with mental problems have such strong logical relationships? Even normal people may not be able to explain it clearly, right? At this moment, he almost believed in the truth that this person was telling. I see. The director breathed a sigh of relief. There have been rumors outside that 888 rounds have been disbanded. After hearing what you said, it still exists. Yes, although the research direction is relatively niche, it has never stopped. And it has always been producing results, just not for outsiders, said John Woo proudly. I have a question, I wonder if Comrade Xiao Wu can help me clarify, said the director. Please speak. As far as I know, secret protection units like the 888 Bureau have very strong enforcement of confidentiality regulations. Back then, I heard some rumors that as soon as I joined the company, I had to completely break away from my family. It is precisely because of this that the 888 Bureau appears very mysterious. Everyone can only guess out of thin air, but cannot get any accurate information. You just said that after changing your name to the Special Affairs Office, the level of confidentiality has also increased. From my understanding, what you just said doesn't seem to be circulating information. Although you said you trust us and won't spread it outside, isn't your behavior a violation of regulations? The director's question was indeed sharp. John Woo smiled and replied, you also said that because everyone is curious about 888 games, there are various speculations. If you are interested, you can search online. I just said that the content can be found online. Many netizens' wild speculations are actually very close to the truth. However, most of them are fragmented, with a hammer in the east and a stick in the west not being complete. I just want to organize these fragments in chronological order and tell you about them. Anyone with stronger logic can do it, so it is not considered a violation of the regulations. Don't worry, please. Police Officer A was dumbfounded. Just when he was mesmerized and believed that this person was a secret agent, now he is telling them, were all the previous stories seen online. Lin Fan couldn't help but raise his eyebrows when he heard this. The director pondered for a few seconds before asking, so, you're here this time with a mission, right? Yes. What task is it? Sorry, it's confidential. Oh. It's related to this female comrade, isn't it? Yes, I hope she can assist me with the investigation. Is there anything special about this female comrade? The director and police officer took a police report to check. Sorry, it's confidential. The director took a deep breath. Shouldn't he just mention the confidentiality agreement? Why did you say everything before and start keeping it confidential as soon as you mentioned the confidentiality agreement? Comrade Lin Fan, right? The director decided to replace the person and ask. Lin Fan nodded. Can you tell me what happened before? The director asked with a smile. Lin Fan doesn't need to abide by the confidentiality regulations, does he? I'm sorry, director. John Woo politely intervened, considering that my previous conversation with Ms. Lin involved confidential information, she cannot tell you. The director was puzzled. She's not from your company, is she? No, it's not. How can you tell her the confidential content? Did she sign a confidentiality agreement? The director turned to Police Officer A. Aren't these two people the first to see each other? Before Police Officer A could speak, John Woo explained, because Ms. Lin will soon join the Special Affairs Agency and become an insider. She will naturally sign a confidentiality agreement, so there is no need to worry about leakage. Lin Fan glanced at him. When did she say she joined? Comrade Lin Fan has. I understand. The director spoke intermittently, his heart clear. What do you understand now? Lin Fan and the two police officers both looked at the director, but he didn't say anything. This chapter originally had over 3,000 words, but after several revisions, it couldn't be published and had to endure the pain of deleting the entire background story. So there may be some gaps in the content, please forgive me. Let 888 games continue to maintain their mystery. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. The Troubles of Being Unstoppable. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. The Troubles of Being Unstoppable. John Woo's expression of joy was like that of a fox stealing a chicken. The director flipped through the police report and asked Lin Fan, you came to the police station to confirm the authenticity of his work permit, right? Yes, Lin Fan nodded. Do you think your job information can be found in the police system? The director asked John Woo again. Yes, John Woo replied. You go to the Internet Police and get a notebook. The director instructed Officer A and asked John Woo, is the notebook okay? After receiving a positive answer, Police Officer A went to find a notebook. The director probably noticed that Lin Fan didn't want to speak and smiled as he spoke to John Woo. How old is it this year? Where are you from? John Woo almost answered, and when it comes to things that cannot be said, he replied, I'm sorry, keep it confidential. Lin Fan listened beside him and was forced to know that John Woo is 36 years old, 178 meters tall, and from Ningbo, Zhejiang. My parents are still alive and doing some small business in my hometown. Didn't you say you wanted to sever ties? The director recalled his previous words. In the early days, there was indeed a rule to cut off all kinship relationships. Later on, everyone in the family had a next generation. However, many of the next generation did not have special abilities and could not receive all of them, nor could they abandon them, which was too inhumane. Later on, it was adjusted. You can choose to cut off kinship relationships or choose to keep them, but maintain minimum contact, cover up with other work, and cannot leak secrets. John Woo explained. Oh, that's right. So, are you working outside? The director became curious. Special assistant to the general manager of a trading company. John Woo smiled. Assistant, I thought you were going to talk about an agent. But the assistant does look like that, the director also smiled. It's similar, the products sold by the company include houses. John Woo gritted his teeth. Police Officer A came in with a notebook and saw the director burst into laughter, unsure of what had happened. "Come on, put it in front of Comrade Xiao Wu. Comrade Xiao Wu, can we watch you operate?" The director smiled and called out to Police A. Of course, John Wu took the computer. 3 police officers gathered around him to watch, and after some operation, an input box popped up on the blank background of the police system. After entering a long string of characters, the redirected page displays many circular patterns, almost filling the entire page. John Wu took a quick look and found the one representing the Special Affairs Office. He clicked on it, and the background of the police badge on the page instantly changed to the pattern he just clicked on, while a blank input box popped up. If the 3 policemen remember, they will find that this design is identical to the badge on John Wu's work card cover. Enter another bunch of characters and press enter, and 3 text buttons will appear on the page. They are Search, Seek Help, and Consult. John Wu clicked on the query and entered his job number in the pop-up input box. The page displays work information with his photo, and the unit is indeed a special functional agency. The name, position, and job number match exactly with the work permit displayed next to it. The computer belongs to the police station, and the system belongs to the police station. It operates under their supervision, and the process takes only over a minute. It seems to have no problems. It's impossible that this person is still a hacker, right? At this moment, Police Officer A's phone rang. He went out to answer the phone and soon came in again, nodding to the director. The director smiled even happier as he turned his notebook to Lin Fan, who was sitting motionless across from him. "Comrade Lin Fan, take a look too. This is the identification we retrieved. After our investigation, it has been basically confirmed that Comrade John Wu's work situation is true. Do you have any further complaints?" Lin Fan guessed that John Wu's identity was fine when he saw the expressions of several police officers. After looking at the computer, he shook his head to the director, indicating that there were no other demands. "Comrade Xiao Wu," the director made another request. "Can you teach us the operation you just did? If there are similar situations next time, we can also investigate on our own." The operations are all basic operations, mainly because the login codes are not easy to obtain. Although John Wu said so, he still took the computer, returned to the homepage, and step by step told them where to go to the first input box. This box contains a special authorization code specifically used to log into the security unit query page. "Where does this code come from?" the director asked. "The special agents themselves know it," said John Wu. "The senior leaders of the police system should also know it. If you really need it, then apply to the higher authorities, and they will review it and send it to you." The director nodded, and John Wu typed again to enter the first icon interface. He said, "Each badge here represents a security unit. There is no name displayed, and if it is not operated by internal personnel, they will tell you which badge to choose. After all, the patterns on each badge are different and easy to distinguish." The 3 of them looked at the full screen of badges and roughly calculated that there were 50 or 60 classified units. After clicking on the badge of the Special Affairs Office, John Wu continued to enter the password. Here is the unit verification code. The code to enter each unit is issued by the corresponding unit, and this also needs to be obtained from the special agents or superiors. After entering the text page, he pointed to 3 text buttons and said, "In addition to being used for work information queries, as we just did, you can also search for help and consultation results. Seeking help is easy to understand. If you encounter an unsolvable problem, click here. Usually, after verification and confirmation, we will send someone over to solve it. Consultation is also used when encountering problems, mainly in the form of QA, and no one will come over. Just enter the special agent number directly to search for work information. For help and consultation, you can enter the special agent number to directly find this person, or you can enter the code sent by your superiors. After submitting the question, a query code will be provided. Use this code to check the final confirmation result here. That's about it. John Woo taught them in detail, and the director thanked them repeatedly. The matter was resolved, and they could also leave. The director wanted to arrange a car delivery, but it was rejected by John Woo. Before leaving, he specifically instructed the director to process the camera. Seeing John Woo chasing Lin Fan away, Police Officer A sighed and said, "I didn't expect it to be true. If it weren't for the internet police saying he didn't have a black system and was operating normally, I would suspect he might be a hacker." "It's both a mental illness and a hacker, aren't you overthinking it?" said the director with disdain. "When did you determine his identity?" Police Officer A asked curiously. "As soon as I meet you, I feel like I can't be separated." "Why?" Police Officer B asked. "When shaking hands, I felt a gun cocoon on his hand." The gun cocoon mentioned by the director is at the mouth of the tiger and on the tip of the index finger, as using a gun often produces thick cocoons. "Then I added a little more force to test him, and he immediately returned. At that time, I felt like it was almost there." Police Officer S suddenly realized, our country has strict gun control, and ordinary people cannot grind out gun cocoons. "Like me, I used to practice shooting, but now I hardly use it, so I can't even grind out gun cocoons. Many of those special police officers may not have gun cocoons. Can you touch them?" It proves that he has also been practicing guns recently, either military or police, and he hasn't run away. The director nodded and said, the things he said later had a beginning and an end. If we were to tell a story, it would be a bit too powerful. Although there are also mentally ill people with high intelligence, there is no such coincidence. Didn't he say it's available online? Police Officer B asked. I'm not sure if there's really something online, but since his identity has been confirmed, those things haven't been widely circulated, and no one can say how much of it belongs to confidential content. Remember, the two of you, don't say what he said today. It's better to do less than to do more. The consequences of violating the confidentiality agreement are far more terrifying than you imagine. The director warned as he turned around and walked back. Being able to become a senior special agent at such a young age is definitely not a simple person. I know the director. The two police officers responded in unison and followed in. On the other hand, John Woo wasted time chatting with the director. He was about to catch up with Lin Fan when he saw her get into a taxi and leave without looking back. Okay, it seems that there hasn't been any substantial change in proving identity. After all, for the first time in contact, it shouldn't be too tight. Let's let her go today. With this in mind, I also took a taxi and left. Lin Fan has been exhausted all day. She was originally just going downstairs to feed a cat, but she managed to hold on for half an hour. After a series of twists and turns, it was already past 3 o'clock when I got home. I was exhausted and had to pay an extra taxi fare. I didn't have the energy to think much, so I tidied up a little and then lay down in bed to sleep. The next day, I woke up and saw the handbag I had brought back the day before. There is still unfinished cat food and water inside due to John Woo's disturbance. She thought of yesterday's trouble and didn't really want to go downstairs. But feeding the cat once every 3 days can already be considered a task she set for herself. Suddenly, half of it is fed less, and I always feel like the task is not completed. Although feeding the cat less would not make it hungry, it still feels uncomfortable to scratch and scratch in my heart. Passing back and forth several times, I couldn't help but look at the bag. Okay, she should be somewhat obsessive-compulsive. Lin Fan didn't want to torture himself anymore, so he decided to take the time too early. It's only after 8 o'clock, go and go quickly. When she saw John Woo waiting at the entrance of the small forest, she felt a sense of helplessness and hesitated for a moment before walking over. After confirming the identity of John Woo at the police station yesterday, she knew that this matter was not over. It's just that she runs fast. John Woo should be very clear about her address. She didn't chase after her yesterday, but today she is waiting in the woods, which can be considered as giving her enough time and space. The one who should have come can't run away. If he wants to talk, let's talk it out all at once. Lin Fan pretended not to have seen anyone and walked straight to the entrance of the small forest to play with cat food. John Woo saw Lin Fan when she appeared. Seeing herself, she paused for a moment and walked towards her again, her smile deepening. "Ms. Lin, we're meeting again." Seeing that Lin Fan was acting recklessly and didn't intend to talk to him, John Woo naturally chose to take the initiative. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Attractive Treatment. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Attractive Treatment. Quickly finishing the work at hand, Lin Fan's piercing anxiety in his heart finally disappeared. She stood up and sighed, saying, "I know you're special. I originally wanted to talk about espionage, but my words were swallowed again." Although there was no one around, she still felt that these sensitive words were not suitable to blurt out. After a moment's pause, why not start with another word? "Since you have conducted a detailed investigation, you should know my current living situation. If I really have the ability you mentioned, don't say I'm living like this now. At least I should know it myself, right?" John Woo noticed Lin Fan's caution and praised her for having a sense of confidentiality. He could tell that Lin Fan was ready to open up, and he responded openly. "I believe Ms. Lin did not deliberately conceal it. So there is a possibility that Ms. Lin did not discover her own abilities. You may not be aware that some abilities can't be discovered from the beginning. Some people may show differences at a very young age, while many people may not discover abnormalities until they are in their 30s, 40s, or even 50s or 60s. Some people's abilities may be very eye-catching, even earth-shattering, while others' abilities are very subtle and difficult to attract attention to, and will never be discovered for a lifetime. Some abilities are of great use, while others are of little use. These all require specific judgment. Moreover, there have been several cases before that I couldn't detect and the abnormality first appeared. Later, due to the extremely dangerous nature of my abilities, there have been incidents of losing control and injuring or even causing death." John Woo patiently explained. "The airplane incident is indeed a cause that caught our attention. Of course, we hope to find such a strong colleague to join and increase our strength. But at the same time, it is also to prevent unexpected situations that may cause us to lose control due to our own failure to detect them in time. Based on the aircraft incident, you have at least 2 abilities. Flying ability and extremely strong strength. If you say you were not aware, it means that when the ability erupted, you were in an unconscious and uncontrollable state. We have estimated that it would require at least 50 tons of lifting force to support a falling fighter jet and gently lower it to the ground. Although the results of the last incident were good, could you imagine what would happen if at least 50 tons of force lost control? Moreover, there is a need to add a flying ability. Uncontrollable supernatural abilities are usually more dangerous. We hope to confirm your situation and also to protect your and the safety of the surrounding people's lives." Upon hearing this, Lin Fan did not expect to mention safety issues. Not only for her safety, but also for others. She pondered silently for a moment and said, "Despite what you said, I still don't think I have any special abilities. My life trajectory is very regular, I stay at home all the time, and I rarely leave the door. If there are any abnormal situations, it's impossible not to notice them at all. Although I also want to be a useful person to society, my body doesn't allow it. Sometimes I even struggle to climb stairs and struggle to get my bags of rice upstairs. I have to have it delivered by express delivery, let alone by plane. I don't know why you found me, but I think you should have found the wrong person. So Ms. Lin, could you please help me confirm a few questions?" John Woo learned about Lin Fan's caution from the first day of contact and was not discouraged. "You say. About a week ago, you came here at noon, probably to feed the cat. But in the past, you would go home in half an hour. This day has passed for a long time, and you haven't come out until it's dark. Can I know what's going on? That day. Lin Fan thought for a moment, remembering that she had returned late. I was feeding the cat, but I didn't quite remember. Later, I found myself lying in the woods. It was already dark. I guess it might be heatstroke. John Woo discovered the key point. Are you saying you have a period of amnesia? Yes. Isn't this an abnormal situation? Didn't it catch your attention? With such a long period of memory loss, anyone would find it strange, right? It's not an abnormal situation. The medicine I took before had significant side effects, which has led to poor memory now. I always forget things and forget things. Sometimes it's normal to not remember what I did for a few days, Lin Fan explained. Although she has stopped taking medication for a long time, it is obvious that the sequelae have not disappeared, which is also the reason why she cannot recover well. Her memory is too poor. Are you saying that situations without memory often occur? John Woo felt that things were more serious than he had imagined. It can't be considered frequent, but it happens from time to time, Lin Fan replied after thinking for a moment. For example, I can't remember what I did the day before yesterday at all. I have an impression of the noon you mentioned, but I really can't remember clearly in the middle. When I woke up, I was lying in a haystack. I think it was probably heatstroke, but I didn't pay much attention. Are you used to the state of having no memory and not paying any attention? John Woo was puzzled. Lin Fan tugged at the corner of his mouth, as if with a bitter smile. At first, I was very panicked and anxious. You probably know, I can't be anxious in this situation. After a very bad period of time, I found out that it didn't affect my life. Caring only made me more painful, so it didn't matter. Lin Fan's light description is like telling someone else's story. The clothes I was wearing that day had holes in the back, what do you think? John Woo heard Lin Fan's indifference and asked more gently. The branches have hung up, after all, there are quite a few branches in the small forest. My clothes have been worn for many years and have already aged. There are already some holes in the corners, so I decided to continue wearing them as soon as it's okay. After scraping them, I threw them away. Lin Fan gestured to John Woo to see where she had fainted in the woods, and there were indeed many branches sprouting. Do you suspect that I went to take a plane when I fainted? Lin Fan was not stupid at first. I remember there was a camera in the forest, should I be able to capture it? She looked left and right and found a camera facing the entrance of the forest, facing the shady path, which should be able to take a clear picture. John Woo followed his instructions and glanced at him, saying, "That's bad. I didn't take any pictures. Just because the surveillance footage didn't capture me, I suspect me. Isn't this a bit far-fetched? If it's just because the surveillance footage didn't capture you, it's definitely impossible to come looking for you. We reviewed all the surveillance footage within a radius of 5 miles, and everyone was operating under surveillance. Only you disappeared for a few hours without any trace, so your suspicion is the highest. And if you faint from heatstroke, it is a relatively serious symptom. If you don't go to the hospital for treatment, it will cause significant damage. It is impossible to faint for a few hours. After waking up, there is nothing wrong. Do you think you feel weak when you wake up? No. Lin Fan remembers clearly that from that day on, there was no special feeling afterwards, except that mosquitoes had bitten many bags. This doesn't prove anything, she shook her head. When you emerge from the clues of tens of thousands of people, my intuition is that you are, said John Woo. After seeing you, I am even more certain that you are right. Intuition. Lin Fan frowned. Aren't you the unit that studies science? Not entirely, half of it is non-scientific research, John Woo smiled. Actually, my intuition is very accurate. Lin Fan only then remembered the special business scope of the special agency. It's all about intuition now. What else can we talk about next? Ms. Lin, would you like to consider testing it? John Woo suggested. You don't believe what I'm saying, and I can't agree with what you're saying. It's better to go and test it. After scientific identification, it will be clear whether it's natural or not. Is it really scientific? This person even reminded her just now about the special nature of the special agency. There are both scientific and unscientific testing methods, but the results are definitely scientific, said John Woo with certainty. You go test it, and if it's really not, I promise to send you back intact. And there's also a generous compensation payment. If it turns out to be, that would be even better. I know your current financial situation is very poor and you don't have the ability to be self-sufficient. Joining our company, the benefits are not comparable to ordinary units. John Woo tried to persuade him, but he didn't notice that someone saw them talking at the entrance of the forest and walked over. Let me first tell you about the benefits for our entry-level employees. The new employees union divides them into levels based on their own abilities, with a minimum basic salary of 20,000 yuan per month. John Woo noticed that someone had entered his security zone, but what he said below was not classified, so he did not stop. And Lin Fan happened to be blocked by John Woo in his sight, but he didn't see it either. Take 5 days off and 2 days off, according to the national statutory holidays. The working hours are from 9 a.m. to 11:30 p.m., and from 2 p.m. to 5:30 p.m., for 6 hours a day. This time is not fixed and can be flexibly adjusted, depending on the specific nature of the work. Overtime can be compensated with either compensatory leave or compensatory pay. The compensatory pay for workdays is based on normal hourly pay, twice the compensatory pay for weekends overtime, and 3 times the compensatory pay for national holidays overtime. Paid annual leave is 20 days per year, with an increase of 5 days every 3 years. Family leave, marriage leave, and funeral leave are subject to national regulations. They can be accumulated across the year or adjusted in salary. The unit has a cafeteria, with 3 meals and a free night snack. If you don't eat in the cafeteria, there is a meal allowance of 50 to 70 yuan per meal. There is a dormitory, a single room, a separate kitchen and bathroom, and a good environment. If you don't live, there is a monthly allowance of 8,000 yuan. The dormitory has shuttle buses for transportation. If not needed, a monthly subsidy of 6,000 yuan will be provided. From June to September, there will be a subsidy for high temperature and cooling, totaling 5,000 yuan per month. From November to February, there will be a subsidy for low temperature and heating, totaling 5,000 yuan per month. There is a monthly subsidy of 20,000 yuan for home decoration, 5,000 yuan for bathing and haircutting, and 8,000 yuan for other comprehensive subsidies. There is also a monthly performance bonus and a year-end bonus. The specific amount of these two depends on your performance. The total amount of 0 and 0, and the annual salary of 1 million is definitely not a problem. During employment, there are additional nutritional benefits for those who fall ill. In the event of accidental death, there is a high funeral allowance. For immediate family members who fall ill, there is a medical subsidy, and for immediate family members who die, there is a pension. For retirement or job transfer, there is a settlement fee, and for business trips, there is a travel allowance. What else do you want to know? End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Detailed Inquiry. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Detailed Inquiry. Do you have 5 insurances and 1 fund? A middle-aged woman's voice inserted next to it. Of course there is. According to the national standards, we pay 5 insurances and 1 fund, all of which are paid by the company, and individuals do not need to pay a penny, said John Woo with a smile as he looked at his aunt behind him. And in situations like her, in her first month of employment, the company will provide a one-time hardship allowance of about 20,000 yuan, allowing her to quickly get out of the predicament and work with peace of mind. When Lin Fan was dizzy and confused by a series of numbers, he suddenly realized that Aunt Mao upstairs had a conversation with John Woo. You can only greet someone first. Xiao Fan, I've been listening for a while now. Don't be too good about this condition, Aunt Mao envied and asked John Woo, young man, are you introducing a job to Xiao Fan? Yes, Auntie, replied John Woo politely, our unit really needs talents like Ms. Lin, so we have offered very good conditions. We hope Ms. Lin can consider joining our unit. Oh, Xiao Fan, what are you waiting for? This is such a good opportunity, hurry up and agree, Mao Auntie earnestly advised. I think it might not be suitable. Lin Fan frowned. What's not suitable for you? Your parents know you want to make a lot of money, don't be too happy. Aunt Mao asked John Woo again, young man, do you have other important positions in your company? Sorry, there are no other positions available at the moment, John Woo continued to answer with a smile. Oh, that's a pity. Auntie originally wanted to find a job for her own son, but I heard she had no choice but to give up. Xiao Fan, don't be confused. Seize such a good opportunity. I know, Auntie. I'll think it over. Are you rushing home to cook after buying groceries? Hurry up and get busy. Lin Fan just wanted to send the person away quickly, it was just adding to the chaos. Aunt Mao wanted to say a few more words, but realized that she seemed to be hindering their conversation. She quickly stepped back and said, sigh, I'm leaving. Xiao Fan, you think carefully. Think about your parents, they can finally enjoy your happiness. Lin Fan was speechless for a moment. She realized that John Woo was intentionally using his neighbors to pressure her, but unfortunately she couldn't say anything. The confidentiality agreement was on one hand, and on the other hand, if these words were spoken out, she might be sent to the hospital again. You're not afraid of being heard, Lin Fan said, taking 2 steps to adjust her position. Now, no matter who approaches this area, she can see it in time. It's okay, what I just said has no confidential content, and it doesn't matter if I hear it. John Woo still smiled, and what I just said is true. An annual salary of 1 million is not a dream, you don't have to worry about the economy anymore. What if I'm not? Not what? Isn't it the person you're looking for? Lin Fan asked calmly, what if we go together and after testing, we find that I'm just an ordinary person? There will be a generous sum. I'm not referring to that, Lin Fan interrupted him. I know so much confidential information. If it turns out that I'm just an ordinary person, what would happen to me? Is there really a possibility of being sent back? Wu Yusen paused for a moment, but Lin Fan was still sharp. After he said he had thrown so many lures, he only thought of this. Will you kill me? That's definitely not possible, John Woo quickly explained. In fact, if you're really an ordinary person, we'll hire top psychologists to hypnotize you and make you forget all the memories about special events. Your life will still remain the same, and we don't have to worry about what secrets you might leak. Hypnosis. It seems to appear frequently in movies, but Lin Fan has never been exposed to it in real life. Is it reliable? Of course it's reliable. Our psychologists are at the top international level and do not rank among the top 5 in the world in terms of professional abilities. His hypnosis skills are particularly impressive. Even if 4 other top psychologists with comparable abilities come, it's difficult to crack them. John Woo proudly said, not to mention hypnosis for ordinary people, there has never been any problem with hypnosis for supernatural beings. Do supernatural beings also need hypnosis? Lin Fan asked. Sometimes it's also necessary. For example, as I mentioned before, there are some abilities that are quite useless. Although they are indeed abilities, they are not actually useful. We don't recruit such people, so before they leave, they must clear the memories of the special agency. This requires hypnosis. Sometimes, some colleagues may perform tasks and have bad memories that can affect their mental state. They may also apply for hypnosis to clear that memory and restore their normal state. Clearing memories. Lin Fan was a bit interested. Is the success rate high? Is it possible to clear any paragraphs? Is it possible to make a mistake? Of course not, he has excellent skills. After countless people's verification, there is absolutely no problem, and there are no side effects. The people he hypnotizes are not even aware of being hypnotized. Lin Fan was lost in thought, and Wu Yusen could see that she was a bit interested in hypnosis. He said, "Don't worry, even if I clear your memory in the end, I will definitely send you back safely. I guarantee you are no different from before seeing me. You mentioned before that there are people out of control." Lin Fan started a new topic. Yes. How did those out of control people handle it? Lin Fan asked. John Woo didn't expect Lin Fan to ask these questions and didn't know how to answer for a moment. Are you still alive? Lin Fan guessed, I'm still dead. It's difficult to answer, but it's not impossible either. Looking at Lin Fan's urgent and direct eyes, John Woo decided to be honest and say, if we lose control before we receive the news, and if we don't die on the spot, we will bring it back under control. There is no way to deal with those who die on the spot. We also need to take responsibility for the aftermath and not be detected by ordinary people. After adjustment and guidance, most of the people brought back can control their own abilities. Basically, they will stay at work. Can't we adjust it? What should we do if we don't accept guidance? I really can't control my abilities, and those with harmful abilities can only be imprisoned and guarded. Where is it locked up? Special Affairs Office. So the Special Affairs Office is not only a research and administrative unit, but also a prison. Lin Fan understood. How long will it be locked down? John Woo didn't say a word, but Lin Fan understood. Did anyone get killed? She asked again. Yes, John Woo answered with difficulty. What situation will be killed? John Woo rarely smiled and sighed, in a state of loss of control. If other special agents can control it, then bring it back to the Special Affairs Office for handling. If it cannot be controlled on the spot and poses a significant security threat, an order will be made to kill it on the spot. Losing control is usually related to emotions, so we have a professional psychotherapy team and top-notch psychologists who can effectively relieve negative emotions and ensure that the rate of losing control is minimized. After a long silence, Lin Fan spoke again. So, if I were the person you mentioned but couldn't control myself, would you also lock me up or kill me? The probability of this happening is not high, it hasn't happened in many years. You can think about it in a positive way. John Woo knew that depression patients tend to view problems pessimistically, and he wanted to try his best to enlighten them, but it was obviously of no use. So I will. Lin Fan affirmed himself. After a moment of silence, John Woo sighed and said, if that really happened, there would be a high amount of funeral allowance that would be enough for your parents to not only have no worries about food and clothing, but also to live their lives comfortably and happily below them. How is the environment inside the prison? Actually, it's not what you think. Only malignant uncontrollability can lead to imprisonment, while benign uncontrollability only limits movement. The basic living conditions are still very good. John Woo gave Lin Fan a special glance. Anyway, it can be stronger than you now. Lin Fan felt a bit offended in an instant, but he didn't care about anything else. He then asked, what are malignant uncontrollable and benign uncontrollable? Malignant uncontrollability can be divided into two types. One is people who can control their abilities but are inherently evil and have a tendency towards antisocial violence. They will use their abilities to do bad things, just like the prisoners in the detention center. Such people will be imprisoned in a first-level prison, treated like prisoners, and will not have a good life. There is another type of person who is very normal and does not have anti-social violence tendencies, but their ability is highly destructive and uncontrollable. Such people usually have some problems with intelligence or reaction ability, so it is difficult to achieve self-control. Although they are innocent, harm does exist and it is dangerous. Such people also need to be locked in bars. But it is different from the kind of prison just now. Although it is also surrounded by iron railings outside, the interior decoration is just an ordinary residential building, and it can even mimic the person's family environment to make them feel better. The Special Affairs Office will assign work that ordinary people can do to such people, and will also provide salary and benefits. Except for not being able to come out of the fence, they are no different from ordinary people, and even earn more than outside due to special units. Such people will also keep trying to control and guide, and as long as they succeed, they will be released. As far as I know, there were only 2 people in that area for so many years. Benign uncontrollability is relatively harmless. After all, everyone has different qualifications and cannot be quickly controlled. Before they can control it, they are all arranged in restricted residences. The environment there is similar to a residential area, as it lacks killing power, so it is not afraid of people gathering and causing destructive damage. The only thing is that they cannot enter or exit at will. The community has all kinds of living facilities, and these people will also work normally. Setting aside the aspect of supernatural abilities, it is really no different from the life of ordinary people. These types of people are usually able to successfully control themselves, but it's just the amount of time each person spends. It can be said that limiting their residence is just a transitional zone for them. As long as they achieve autonomous control, they can leave from there. So you don't have to worry too much. Even if it's really out of control, you won't live a prisoner's life. If there really is one day, you will find that except for a faraway iron fence, your life is almost no different from staying at home every day without going out now. We can even copy the layout of your home decoration, create this small forest, and let you keep cats and dogs inside. Moreover, I believe that with your intelligence, you cannot achieve self-control. Lin Fan nodded and walked away without saying anything. John Woo watched as he saw her home, feeling for the first time that it was not easy to get in touch. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Hurting Emotions. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Hurting Emotions. After Lin Fan returned home, he collapsed onto the bed. I don't know if she stayed downstairs for a long time or if the conversation took a lot of effort. She felt extremely tired and fell asleep in a daze. The words spoken swirled in her mind, and unease and fear merged into a dream. In his dream, Lin Fan was taken into a special agency by John Woo. People wearing white coats gathered around her one by one, cutting flesh from her body. She ran and encountered a person dressed like a wizard who wanted to hypnotize her, grabbing her scalp and lifting her head. It was easy to escape and then run into the iron prison. John Woo laughed heartily outside, while Lin Fan was both anxious and angry. With a bump, he turned into a 9-headed monster and sprayed fire at the iron fence. John Woo pulled out a machine gun from somewhere and gave her a quick sweep. Killed 8 heads, there is still 1 left. The disappearing white coat ran in again and nailed her to the wall, chopping off all the dead heads and making them into specimens to hang where she could see them. Every day, I cut off meat from her body and hit her head with a hammer, making a clattering sound. The remaining head kept crying and whimpering, wanting to die but unable to do so. John Woo came over again and mocked him, saying that she deserved to believe that she had followed him. Then he also used a hammer to clatter her head. He even bit meat from her. After finishing, continued to clatter and smash. Lin Fan suddenly woke up with a startled clatter in her ear, causing her to roll over and roll over. Upon closer inspection, it was her phone ringing. She covered her chest, took a long breath, and took a few more breaths. Obviously, John Woo's words still had an impact on her. The phone stopped for a few seconds and then began to clatter again. Lin Fan calmed down his good mood before picking up the phone, glanced at the note, and answered, "Hello." Lin's mother's high-pitched voice came from across the phone. "Xiaofan, why did it take so long to answer the phone?" "I was sleeping just now," Lin Fan replied. "What do you get to sleep at around 4 o'clock?" It's neither early nor late. Get up quickly, you won't be able to sleep at night when you turn around, Lin Ma shouted. Lin Fan looked at the clock and it was almost 5 o'clock. She came back around 10 o'clock and slept for about 6 or 7 hours. What's up? Lin Fan took the cup and poured water into the hall. Just now, Aunt Mao called and said she saw someone introducing you to a job with very good conditions. The salary and bonus are thousands of yuan. What's going on? Why didn't you tell us? Lin's mother's voice was a bit excited. There's such a thing. Lin Fan took a sip of water and knew that Aunt Mao had a broken mouth and liked to spread messages everywhere. Unexpectedly, she still had her mother's phone number. But I don't think it's appropriate. Where is it not suitable? Why is it not suitable? Before Lin Fan finished speaking, Lin's mother interrupted angrily. Aunt Mao said you have a base salary of 20,000 yuan, and you don't have to pay for the 5 insurances and 1 fund yourself. What other subsidies are there that cost several thousand yuan? I can't remember clearly, anyway, it costs several 100,000 yuan a year. How could you not go? Lin's mother suddenly received a call from her neighbor Lao Mao and was also surprised. Although she has been a neighbor for many years, she has never been in touch with the friendship of saying hello upstairs and downstairs. It took her a while to think about who this person was. After polite greetings, I was shocked by the news revealed by Lao Mao. A monthly salary of 20,000, it's still the base salary. Her sister's daughter, who graduated from graduate school, works in Gaohe City and only earns over 10,000 yuan per month. In their local area, earning 5 or 6,000 is considered good. If they can earn 7 or 8,000, I don't know how many people would envy them. Although their family has also done business before, at most they only earn 300 to 400,000 yuan a year, all of which is hard-earned money from early morning to late night. And her daughter, when she thought she was going to be dragged down for a lifetime, how could she not be confident that someone offered such a high salary and good treatment? You must agree. She was so anxious that she didn't even have a good nap, so she waited for Lin Fan to call and tell them, but she couldn't wait. I couldn't wait any longer, so I took the initiative to call and ask about this matter, but what did she hear? Where are you dissatisfied? Where is not suitable? What are you thinking? Lin Mama shouted directly. Lin Fan moved the phone away and didn't want to speak for a moment, feeling a bit uncomfortable in his heart. Xiao Fan, speak up. Where is the person? Lin Fan, what's wrong with you? Speak up. Alright, what are you arguing about? If you don't say a few words, you'll argue. Lin's father's voice came from the receiver. What's up with you? Did I talk to you? Lin's mother was very angry. Xiaofan must be resentful of your noise. You give it to me, and I'll tell her well. Lin's mother muttered and handed the phone to Lin's father. Thinking about it, she clicked on the hands.free button so that both of them could hear it. Lin Fan also turned on the hands.free and placed her phone on the table. She felt weak again and felt a little numb all over, lying on the table to rest. Xiaofan, Lin's father's voice came, calm and soothing Lin Fan's slightly anxious heart. Dad. Don't blame your mother either, she's just that kind of person, you know. Lin's father advised him for a few words before continuing to ask, what's going on? I was shocked when I heard your mother say something unclear. Can you tell him? Someone said in the morning that they would introduce me to a job, but you are not unaware of my situation and I cannot maintain a normal life. Lin Fan said slowly. Why can't you live a normal life? You haven't lived a normal life alone for a few years. Lin's mother's voice came over again. Oh my, stop talking. Lin's father anxiously stopped, what kind of job is it? How good is the salary? Lin Fan continued to say, it's still my previous job. The salary is really high, with an annual salary of over 1 million, but... Over 1 million. Lin Mama shouted from across the street. You let the child finish speaking. Lin's father ignited the fire and shouted to Lin's mother. Lin's mother originally wanted to reply, but after thinking of over 1 million, she restrained herself and focused on the phone. Xiao Fan, speak slowly. Lin's father took a break and whispered softly to Lin Fan as much as possible. When I was doing my best in Gaohe City back then, I became a supervisor and only earned around 200,000 yuan per year. Now that I have been sick for so many years, let alone my health. I have been working for so many years and my hands have grown. How could the company still spend so much money hiring me to work? Lin Fan never intended to go with John Woo from start to finish. I didn't expect Aunt Mao to be involved and let her parents know. This matter couldn't have been said at first, so we can only fabricate a lie and turn it around. Lin Dad thinks about it, it's this logic. He has always believed that his daughter is outstanding and that she will definitely recover her health, but to be fair, he doesn't think it's true that someone is offering her 1 million yuan to treat her in her current state. Why can't it work? You were a small company back then, but if you change to a big company now, your salary will definitely be higher. It must be something you did before, and people will appreciate it when they see it. That's why they came to you. Promise him first, go take a look, and it won't be a loss. Lin's mother anxiously beside her. Xiao Fan, you mean this person may be a scammer, right? Lin's father thought to himself. What scammer came all the way to deceive your girl? Lin's mother became even more anxious and shouted at Lin's father, what's there to deceive her about? Stop talking. Lin's father shouted loudly. Lin's mother also realized that she had said the wrong thing, but when Lin's father yelled at her, she was not convinced and said hard, she was already like this. She doesn't work, doesn't get married, and has to rely on us to support her. With her like this, what are they trying to deceive her for? You. Lin's father was so angry that he wanted to stand up and hit someone. Are you a dead woman? I don't know if the hands.free feature is activated. Can Xiao Fan hear it? Dad, Lin Fan shouted softly, feeling both sad and not sad in her heart. She should have gotten used to it. Breath. Inhale breath. Inhale. Lin's father heard him call on the phone, quickly picked up the phone, pressed it hands.free, and whispered in his ear, Xiao Fan, don't take it to heart. You know, your mother's mouth is like this, she doesn't think so in her heart. Where did you say earlier? Lin Fan suddenly forgot what he had said earlier. It's not normal for someone to spend a lot of money on you, Lin Dad reminded. Seeing Lin's mother lean towards the back of her phone again to listen, she gave him a fierce glare. Lin's mother also knew she was wrong, but she didn't want to admit it and regretted it in her heart. A completely unfamiliar person suddenly walked up to you and said they would spend 1 million to hire you. Would you believe it? No, Lin's father instantly denied it in his heart. Does he not have any unit certification or anything? Lin's mother asked. Even if there is proof, should I immediately believe it and go with him? Lin Fan asked in reverse. Lin's mother frowned, feeling that it was not appropriate, but that was 1 million. Why doesn't someone with no reason come to deceive her? There's always a reason. Lin's mother was right, of course there were reasons, but Lin Fan couldn't say it, so she mixed the truth and concerns. What if I never go back? You can't even find me. This is also Lin Fan's hidden concern. Alarm. Do you know how many cases of disappearance occur nationwide every year and no one can be found? Lin Fan had a fire burning both cold and hot. Xiao Fan, stop talking, Lin's father inserted in time. Dad knows that money is not easy to earn, and the boss who pays you 1 million yuan will definitely let you do 1 million yuan of work. If you're not sick, Dad believes you're not a problem. But now that you're sick, our health is still the top priority. Everything else, when you're better, will gradually come. Lin's father still decided to support Lin Fan. Is the money enough? Don't worry, Dad can afford to support you. Lin's words were like a thin stream, instantly extinguishing the restless flames. Just as I eased a little, I heard Lin's mother's voice again. You asked me to tell Xiaofan. Don't speak recklessly, Lin's father advised. Lin Mama and by Lin Dad glanced at each other and hugged their phone, saying, Xiaofan, Mom knows you're afraid of encountering scammers. Mom also knows that this doesn't sound reliable, but what if everything is true? You let Xiaofan rest assured and cultivate. Lin's father tried to grab the phone, but Lin's mother dodged him. If it's true, 1 year is 1 million. Do you know what the concept of 1 million is? How many years can one work for? Lin Mama stood up and hid from Lin Dad. Don't say anything, Lin's father anxiously grabbed his phone from Lin's mother around the coffee table. Mom really hopes for you, really. No one wants you better than Mom. But you know the situation at home. We're all old and sick. I've been feeling unwell lately, and your dad's been coughing and afraid to go to the hospital to see you. I'm afraid it might shorten your money. Your uncle and his family have always looked down upon us for being poor. After you fell ill, they openly and secretly accused us of spoiling you. You were not much worse than your brothers and sisters, how come you have become like this now? You shut up. What are you talking about? Lin's father was anxious, his chubby body couldn't catch up with Lin's mother. It's not that Mom is cruel. Mom is afraid that one day we might suddenly leave. You're not well enough and no one will take care of you, Lin said, tears streaming down her face. Mom knows you suffer, but who doesn't suffer? Bite your teeth and force yourself to come over for a lifetime. If this is true, but you let go, you will definitely regret it when you are better. Afterwards, there was a murmur, and then Lin's father's voice came gasping and panting, Xiaofan, don't listen to your mother. Lin's mother was still shouting beside her, you need to think carefully. Be sure to think carefully. Lin's father ran downstairs with a thud and couldn't hear Lin's mother's voice before continuing, Xiaofan, don't listen to your mother. You're so well, Dad believes you'll recover soon. You won't have to worry about not having a good job then. If you can find 1 million jobs now, you will definitely have them in the future. Then parents will be waiting to enjoy your blessings. Lin Fan lay motionless on the table, tears streaming down his arms onto the table. He opened his mouth and cried a bit, I know. Lin's father heard that she was crying and quickly advised, you can't cry. The doctor said that you shouldn't be sad or upset about your illness. You need to relax and be happy in order to recover quickly. If you think that job is unreliable, you can give it up. Don't think about it. Your body is the most important, you know. Okay, I won't tell you much. Can you find some comedy or music later and be happy, okay? After all, it's much better now than 2 years ago. Don't be sad anymore, okay? Lin's father Een reminded. Got it, Dad, take care of your health too. You can hang up first. Hey, I'll hang up then, you're okay. Lin's father hung up reluctantly and walked slowly home. End of this chapter. Chapter 10, Then Let's Go. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10, Then Let's Go. Lin Fan quickly adjusted his emotions and tried not to let himself fall into too many bad situations. What happened these past 2 days has long exceeded the understanding of a normal person. Although John Woo's identity has been confirmed, many guarantees have been made, and many temptations have been made, Lin Fan still does not want to listen to him. On the one hand, she was certain that she was not the person he was looking for. If she really has superpowers, maybe she sleeps a lot. Especially these past 2 days, I have been causing a lot of trouble by John Woo. Although it was just a speech, the long duration caused her to feel particularly tired and she went to sleep when she got home. If someone is flying a plane, she believes it. But this person can never be themselves. On the other hand, Lin Fan is not certain about the consequences of going with him. She did not forget the predecessor of the Special Affairs Agency, which was called the Institute of Human Studies. With the word research, it feels a bit scary. She always felt like that place was like a black hole with her mouth open, and as soon as she entered, everything else was out of her control. The feeling of being out of control is very bad. She got this disease because she couldn't control her emotions well, and she has also suffered a lot in recent years. Recently, Howie has stabilized a bit and is gradually improving. She is even more afraid to increase abnormal contact with the outside world, afraid of encountering something that will stimulate her fragile nerves and affect her emotions, leading to repeated illness and failure. That's also why she has been staying at home all the time. Her poor health is just one aspect, and her fragile emotions and lack of resilience are more important reasons. In order to maintain a stable living state and reduce the stimulation of accidents, she didn't even leave the community and created a safe house for herself. Even so, one cannot fully control their own state. The special agency is such a huge institution, and when she goes, it's like a leaf falling on the sea. Whether it's calm or rolling, it's ultimately beyond her control. She is not sure if what happened during this period will cause her worse emotional state. So she doesn't plan to go with John Woo. But after answering the phone, she hesitated. Lin's mother is right. They are old and don't have any extra energy or money to take care of her. For such a long time, living on the retirement pension of the two elders, she felt guilty, self-blaming, guilty, and tormented in her heart. Due to this incident, my depression once worsened, feeling like a burden and not wanting to burden my family. Lin's father noticed it on the farewell phone and cried to persuade her. Even if you don't think about yourself, think about your parents. If you really leave, what will your parents do? Lin Fan once again held back. Later on, every time I felt like I couldn't survive, I thought about the phone call Lin's father was crying and talking about that day. It's not because of the content, it's the feeling of being cared for. If it were to lose the heartbreaking emotions, it truly comforted her anxiety and made her endure until now time and time again. She also learned to ignore the various emotions that constantly appeared and pulled her down, and tried to maintain a relaxed and positive mood. But ignoring does not mean forgetting. She never forgot that she was dragging down her parents. Now there is an opportunity, as long as she goes, it is said that she can receive a generous compensation. Why not give it a try? I haven't done anything in all these years, it's all because I can't do it. Why not reduce the burden on parents when there is an opportunity that can be easily achieved? As for the unease, Lin Mama was right, she gritted her teeth and passed it. If an accident occurs midway, will there still be funeral expenses? Should it be higher than the compensation? She doesn't know when she will be able to return to normal. But even if it returns to normal, at her age, it's not easy to find a job, and she may have been busy for decades earning less than funeral expenses. Lin Fan began to seriously consider how much funeral expenses could be given if he died in a special agency. It's better to give it a try, to bring back some money in life or death. All night long, Lin Fan kept persuading himself until he was too tired to hold on anymore before slowly closing his eyes. The next day, he was awakened by a knock on the door. As expected, it was John Woo who was smiling outside the door. "Good morning, Ms. Lin, we're meeting again." John Woo was still dressed in a black suit, white shirt, and red tie, carrying a briefcase in his hand. Lin Fan really doesn't want to talk to him. If it weren't for this person's appearance, her life wouldn't have been disrupted, and her long-adjusted calm mindset wouldn't have been disrupted. When there was a stalemate, an old lady walked down from upstairs and asked, "Xiaofan, is this?" "My friend came to see me," Lin Fan said, grabbing John Woo's arm and pulling him into the room, quickly closing the door. Compared to Aunt Mao's broken mouth, this old lady is obviously more dangerous and someone who can spread rumors recklessly. The aunties in the community don't care if the news is true or false, they are just trying to have fun. Lin Fan knew that her reputation was not good, and many of her words were spread from this old lady's mouth. She didn't want to add more discussion to this kind of person. The old lady looked at some gossip and left with a pout. Lin Fan looked at Wu Yusen, who had already entered inside, saying, "Sit down as you please." John Woo didn't expect to be dragged into the house by Lin Fan. After all, Lin Fan has been keeping a distance from him. Lin Fan's house is very clean and empty, appearing to lack any sense of life. The decoration is an old style around the millennium, and it seems that a lot of money was spent at that time. On the right side of the door is the kitchen, and a small door inside the kitchen should be the toilet. Inside the toilet is a small room, with the door facing the entrance door. On the left side of the small room, there should also be a room with a slightly larger area, with the door facing towards the kitchen and just slightly staggered from the toilet door. The large room leads to the lobby on the left side of the entrance. A square table was placed next to the aisle. To the left is a wooden long sofa. It was also a popular furniture style in the past. On the opposite side of the sofa, there is a TV cabinet and a big butt TV. Under the TV, there are DVDs and amplifiers, and high speakers stand on either side of the TV cabinet. To the left is the balcony with a washing machine, and a few clothes are hanging on top. The partition walls between the balcony and the hall have been opened up, and the lighting is good, so the hall does not appear very crowded. John Woo walked up to the wooden sofa and sat down. Lin Fan brought him a glass of plain water from the kitchen and said, "This is the only one at home." "Thank you." John Woo picked it up and took a sip. The temperature was neither hot nor cold, just right for the mouth. Lin Fan took out a stool from under the dining table and sat next to it. John Woo opened his briefcase, took out an A4 paper with an official seal, and handed it to Lin Fan, saying, "I know you're being careful, so I have specially applied for a compensation contract for you." Lin Fan came over to take a look. The contract states that if she goes to the special agency for testing and the final result shows no special abilities, the agency will provide a one-time compensation of 30,000 renminbi to her. 30,000 yuan, you don't have to withdraw from the two elders for 2 years. If I die during the testing process, will I lose money? Lin Fan couldn't forget last night's thought. Wu Yusen was stunned for a moment and said, "Testing will not cause death." What if? Even if the test doesn't work, if you accidentally get hit by something falling from upstairs, you have to explain it clearly first, right? John Woo feels that Lin Fan is not someone who loves money. Yesterday, he said so many benefits, but Lin Fan didn't even move his eyelids. "I suddenly became so concerned about losing money today, so something must have happened." The accidental compensation during the detection process is actually regulated, but it has never happened in reality. After thinking for a moment, John Woo replied, "From when I pick you up to when I bring you back, if you get injured during this period, the Special Affairs Office will be responsible for treating you. Depending on the severity of the injury, a compensation of 20,000 to 200,000 yuan for mental damage and nutrition will be provided. If you are disabled, an additional compensation of 300,000 to 800,000 yuan will be provided according to the specific situation. Are you dead?" This is the second time Lin Fan mentioned it. Wu Yusen suspected that she had any thoughts, but he was still honest. If the death is caused by special circumstances, a one-time funeral compensation of 2 million yuan will be given. 2 million is still worth dying. Lin Fan thought to see if there was a chance, then handed the A4 in his hand to John Woo, saying, "Write down everything you just said." Wu Yusen calmly looked at Lin Fan for 2 seconds and roughly guessed her thoughts. He took the contract with a smile and slowly wrote on the coffee table. If Lin Fan wants to seek death in front of him, he can try to see if he can succeed. It seems that she still doesn't believe in her abilities. It wasn't long before it was written. Lin Fan saw it without any problems and didn't hesitate much. He took the signing pen handed over by John Woo and wrote his name on it. "When will we leave?" Lin Fan asked as he handed the paper and pen back. John Woo took it over and put it in his briefcase. It depends on your time, you can do it anytime. Then let's go. John Woo didn't realize for a moment. He wanted to take Lin Fan back early, but he didn't expect to leave immediately. Isn't it common for girls to prepare something? How long will it take to go? Lin Fan asked again. Including the time on the road, it will take about 2 to 3 days. You can prepare a bit. Lin Fan finished listening and walked into the small room to tidy up. Wu Yusin guessed that it was her room and sat on the sofa waiting. What do you need to bring? Lin Fan asked from the room. You can bring your ID card. Actually, it doesn't matter whether you bring it or not. Considering the possibility of unexpected situations, John Woo still allows it to be carried. Lin Fan is in the room. I first took 2 sets of clothes to change and wash, and put them in my handbag. Take out your ID card again and put it inside. Think about how thin your ID card is and how easy it is to lose, then take out your driver's license book, insert your ID card into your driver's license book, and put it in your handbag. Think about putting the dirty bed sheets in again. She carried a bag into the living room, placed it on the coffee table, and said to John Woo, "Wait for me." "You're not in a hurry, take your time," said John Woo with a smile as he took a sip of water. Lin Fan put away the dry clothes on the balcony. Enter the toilet, close the door, and turn on the faucet. She just woke up, hasn't brushed her teeth or washed her face, and her personal problems haven't been resolved. Given that there was a stranger outside, she could only turn on the faucet to cover up certain sounds. In less than 5 minutes, Lin Fan came out of the bathroom, holding a towel and toothbrush, and went to the kitchen to pack 2 plastic bags and put them in the red bag on the coffee table. John Woo stared blankly at the red non-woven handbag with the supermarket name printed on it. He thought Lin Fan had left it casually, but he didn't expect her to be ready to take it with him. It looks cramped inside, with nothing left. Their cleaning ants don't even carry such bags. Lin Fan is only in his 30s, is he so casual? Do you want to go to the bathroom? Lin Fan closed the balcony window and pulled the curtains one by one. Oh, sorry to bother you. He was planning to find a chance to use the restroom outside, but Lin Fan suggested it. So, let's use it. When he came out, Lin Fan had already changed into a new outfit and was turning off the power switch in the kitchen. You go out first, Lin Fan said. John Woo obediently went out. I saw Lin Fan take a mop from the toilet and mop all the places he passed by. He didn't change his shoes unless Lin Fan asked him to. John Woo blushed a bit. After washing the mop, Lin Fan went to the kitchen and closed the water gate. He picked up a red handbag, took out a plastic bag from inside, put the slippers on his feet, and put them in the bag. Wu Yusin saw that Lin Fan was about to close the door and quickly asked, "Are you taking these with you?" When Lin Fan saw him ask, he picked up his handbag and carefully pointed at the things inside. Bed sheets, changing clothes, ID card, towel, toothbrush, slippers, water cup, phone, power bank. Is there anything else I need to bring? I have indeed brought everything that should be brought. But when girls go out, okay, Lin Fan is a person who doesn't stick to small details. Lin Fan saw that Wu Yusin didn't add much and locked the door at home. Let's go. End of this chapter.